All right, and this is part 7, if I'm not mistaken, of my confession series from Liberty. And I will admit, like, doing these videos has been good and bad. Good in the sense that, thinking about good memories, some fun people I used to hang out with and talk with and live with, but then bad, talking about some of the negative aspects of Liberty. But let me just say this: during my time as a student, I definitely had way more ups than downs. So, there were some bad moments, trust and believe, they were in the videos, but overall, I really did enjoy my experience there. But in this particular video, I think I'm actually kind of skipping ahead, because I remember when I first started this series, I was like, you know what? Let me talk about all the stuff about my time as a student. Then, depending on how well that did, I would transition into my time as a employee at the call center for academic advising for LU Online. I had that job for 3 years, 1 month, and 3 weeks, I believe. Yeah, because actually the 1 year anniversary, of me quitting the job is October 17th, and that'll be 1 full year since I left the job to do YouTube full time. And then I occasionally picked up things on eBay, like selling on eBay. There's a link in the description below if you want to check out my eBay store. Stuff I've been collecting for years, so be on the lookout for that. But in any case, once again, I think I'm jumping the gun here, but I want to do this video anyway. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts. And again, these are just my thoughts on the whole Jerry Falwell. Well, I'm not saying that out of disrespect, because at one time, again, when I was a student, it was Chancellor Falwell. Then out of nowhere, it was President Falwell. I'm like, when did that exchange of power come? Like, again, I'm not being disrespectful. I was just like, wow, when did that happen? That's interesting. But yeah, so President Falwell at the time, like, I'm assuming that's the same title, I think. But we're talking about, the endorsement of candidate. I feel like that's what the focus of this video is, talking about, should, like, the head of a college or university endorse a candidate. Now, going back to the video, I think part 6 was when I talked about, being black during the Obama years when he got reelected and he was up against Mitt Romney. The first time I graduated, like actually crossed the stage and everything, was for my bachelor's in communications, advertising, public relation, and first commencement. And I went. Can't say I had the best time. Good time in the fact I think that I graduated alongside my prayer leader. Yeah, he wasn't the RA, but he was a prayer leader. Good time. Awesome dude, Brett Gilley, man, awesome times with that guy. But I'll never forget, like, this was during the tension. This was one of the most, like, you remember how I talked about in part 6 about, being one of the few black guys on the hallway, how tense it was. And the next morning, everything I went through. This was, this was like going to a church. And again, I'm from a small Baptist community. Not like, to me, Lynchburg is a big town, just to put that in perspective. Like, I'm from a town where you go to church that's like 10 minutes up the street. That Baptist church with maybe 100 or so members or whatever. That's the kind of church I'm from, and I love it. It was like that commencement was like going to a church where half the people don't like the pastor. Like, when he says something, only a few people would clap, and then the other people would have their arms crossed. That was commencement. Like, up until the point where Mitt Romney actually spoke, it was good. But let me just say this much. Let me just give a devil's advocate disclaimer. And again, this isn't influencing what I'm about to say, because I'm speaking from my own heart, my experiences. But let me just say this much. Regardless of how I felt towards Mitt Romney and his politics and whatnot, I was at least happy to say, you know what, regardless as to whether or not he wins the election, let's say if he did win the election, it would have been, again, once again, disregarding, everything he stood for, what I agree with, what I didn't agree with, it was cool in that moment to say, wow, I'm actually at a commencement where the potential future president of the United States is speaking. this is awesome, you know. So I thought that was a cool aspect of it. You know, it was kind of weird going through metal detector. I know it's policy and everything for a presidential candidate, but I just like, wow, this is a first. So, you know, going through the metal detectors and everything, Secret Service is there and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, Brett Brett was walking, you know, because the guy's like, you know, please, you know, arms up or whatever. Guy, like, I've never been on a plane, so it's been a while since I went through the metal detector or whatever. But yeah, it's like, you know, arms up, because basically you're supposed to do as the agent tells you to. Like, you raise your arms up when he tells you to. You go through the metal detector when he tells you to. So Brett emptied his pockets. He raises his arms up and then walks through the metal detector like, you know, he's about to be on Showtime at the Apollo or whatever. And the guy's like, sir, excuse me, we're going to have to follow protocol. Go step back, go through it when we tell you to. This isn't your show. I was dying laughing at that. But here's the part I'm getting at. So I'll never forget being at commencement. It was me, Brett, a few other people around. There was this, like, you know, a girl sitting beside me. She was white. That's important to the story because, again, being one of the few black people on my hallway and stuff like that, it's mostly a Republican conversation going on. Now, here's the part of the commencement that had me rolling. When President Falwell got up on the podium and was like, you know, he gave a speech about how, you know, hey, Liberty does not endorse candidates and stuff like that and yada, yada, yada. But then when he shifted into the introduction of Mitt Romney, going over the resume, giving, you know, the impressive accomplishments, stuff like that. And he's like, I'll never forget it, too. And here's why I'll never forget it. And then he said, and now I'd like to introduce to you the next president of the United States, Mitt Romney. And half the crowd went nuts. The other half was silent. And then the white girl beside me, and I quote, what the did he just say? Like, I'm not even going to say the F-bomb for the monetization reasons, but she literally said, what the F did he just say? And the part that killed me was the people around, because again, this was commencement at the football stadium. This wasn't the parts where each, like, the School of Business would go somewhere, the School of Divinity. This was when everyone was gathered together. So this was a melting pot of people in my area. So imagine me sitting beside Brett, big white dude, then the white girl sitting on my other side, then, you know, a bunch of other people sitting around us. When she dropped the F-bomb, we were dying laughing. It was just hilarious because it was like, how can you, like, say you're not endorsing someone, but then you literally say in the next sentence, here's the next president of the United States? I'm like, yo. So that entire speech was just, it was divisive, to say the least, due to the fact that half the people were clapping, half the people were stone-faced. And the reason, and let me just say this again, it wasn't about the fact that, you know, it was Mitt Romney. The fact, well, I guess in a way, because it was Mitt Romney or whoever else, whatever political candidate. But here's the part that got me. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't retract that statement. It wasn't about the fact that Mitt Romney was speaking, because at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, the potential next president is speaking at my commencement. That's cool. But the problem about that commencement was it never felt about, it never felt like it was about us. It never felt like it was about the graduates. It felt like it was just a huge political platform. That's all it was. Just giving a political campaign speech. And I graduated like 4 or 5 times. Like, I got all the DVDs, so I got it. I can go back and watch it if I wanted to. And that speech literally had nothing to do with the graduates. Like, if that was the one and only time I actually marched and graduated from Liberty, I would have been disappointed, because it was not about us. It literally was not about us. And that story, yeah, I'll always remember that day because it was funny as hell. But yeah, that was a day, like, wow. But moving forward from that, you know, then we transitioned to the Trump campaign, where, you know, President Falwell said he was endorsing Trump. This was during my time working with Liberty, and my gosh, that was an interesting day. Since I don't work there anymore, like, I'm not giving out private information or anything like that, so I don't believe I can be fined for this. But yeah, I'm just going to tell the story. In a nutshell, it was crazy because of the fact that people would call in literally, and this isn't, no, I'm not getting in trouble. This made the news. So people would send their degrees back, and for the love of, why would you do that? Like, trust and believe, I can understand, because I remember talking with people telling me, like, you know, it's like Liberty students, Liberty graduates are like blacklisted in certain jobs and whatnot due to the fact of, you know, the scrutiny behind the degree because of Falwell supporting Trump and stuff like that. But I would never send back my degrees because of the fact that they aren't paid for technically. And also the fact, like, regardless of the stuff that went down behind the scenes with the big ups in the leadership, that does not deter or diminish or tarnish my feelings toward my education, which I'll forever be grateful for. Like, I do not regret. I had some awesome professors. I learned some real stuff. And just because Falwell endorses Trump, that has nothing to do with the degrees I got, the classes I took. So I don't really see how sending a degree back does anything. If anything, it just hurts you, because sending the degree back doesn't give you your money back. It's like, imagine like a mother who was telling their child, like, hey, I'm going back to school, so I hope this inspires you to go back to college. Like, what kind of message does that send to your child if, like, because you're upset at what somebody else did, you're going to just throw the degree back into the water or whatever? So, and again, not saying anything against the people that did that, but I cannot see the purpose in that. So that's all I have to say on that particular matter. But yeah, it was not strange or unheard of news that people were leaving the school, because I believe in like recent years, like there were reports of like students who were legitimately protesting and stuff like that about like anytime Trump or somebody that was from his campaign came to campus. It got pretty ugly sometimes. And, you know, we would have protocols for the phones about, you know, how hey, you know what, if a student calls in and tells us they're leaving because of what, basically whenever Trump did something negative or whatever, then not even 48 hours later, Falwell would be on the TV. And then of course that would spark students like, yeah, you know, what do you got? It's like your boy supporting Trump. Like, and I wasn't afraid to tell students, like, sir, and this is even when it wasn't Falwell or Trump related, like, you know, somebody called pissed off about something. It's like, sir, I don't make the rules. Like, I can help you the best I can, but you're not going to be able to talk to the Falwell. Like, you know, if you want, a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to speak to the chancellor personally. No. I remember one student got pissed off. He was like, yeah, it's like, what? Yeah, I want to talk to Jerry, but he's too busy running with Trump. I'm like, what does that have to do with your financial aid, sir? But yeah, it was just crazy because we had protocols in place for students who legitimately were leaving the school because of the fact that, you know, Jerry was supporting Trump. And like, even when I was in the being backup for admissions, when they were overflooding with calls, like students who put in applications were withdrawing them because they didn't agree with what Jerry was doing. So that hurt numbers, but I mean, it's almost like swept under the rug because of the fact that they just kept building more stuff to bring in more people. But yeah, and my thing is with this, like, as an individual, you have your right to endorse whoever you want to, because hey, you know, when you're a person in America, you can do that. But when you're the face of a company or a brand or a university, as in this position, what you do is a reflection of the school. And because of the fact that you supported Trump and endorsed him, that gives off a vibe that Liberty endorses Trump. And that's what caused a lot of negativity within the community, not just how people look at Liberty, but how people from Liberty look at Liberty itself. So that was definitely an interesting time for me. And I'm glad, for one, I was not on campus. But I will say this much. The only semi-comforting thing about the divisiveness of Falwell supporting Trump was, unlike the Obama re-election, I was seeing white people just as upset over Trump as white people being upset over Obama winning and Mitt Romney losing. Again, speaking from a black guy's perspective, who was both on campus, an online student, and a worker. So I'm speaking from experience here. That was pretty damn interesting. But yeah, that was interesting how like people would just call in pissed off, and like they could tell, yeah, my brother, it's like, you know, you hang in there. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm just trying to get my check. So, well, yeah, like disclaimer, I'll do a separate video. Maybe this would be like my bridging video between life as a student and life as an employee. I think my next video will definitely be my how I got the job and stuff like that. So yeah, again, like, once again, it is every individual's right to endorse someone if they so choose, but at the same time, it led to a lot of scrutiny within the university itself and how people look at it. But I think in like part 3 or part 4, I talked about how, how I met the Falwells and stuff. And let me just say again, as a disclaimer and as the truth, I don't think that I have had the opportunity to meet up with Mr. and Mrs. Falwell, Jerry and Becky, since I was a student. Well, actually, no. That one time I went to coffee house, floor seats. I think it was like 80s coffee. I know I had the Beat It jacket on. I actually got to dance with Miss Falwell. That was pretty cool. But I don't think I've ever like one-on-one conversations with them since I graduated and stuff, because I know President Falwell, I know if he saw me now, he would probably still remember me as the Cantaloupe guy. I'm from South Boston, Virginia. They had the, Virginia Cantaloupe Festival. That's how it was a given, because he would always see me at coffee house on the floor. But every time I've met them, great people, awesome family, care about the students. Like, let me just put it this way. I haven't seen them in probably 5 years. Well, no, I'm sorry, I'm bad at math. 3 or 4 years in person. But every experience that I've had with them one-on-one has been amazing. But even if I don't agree with a lot of the decision making going on at the school, that doesn't really tarnish the memories I have of me meeting up with them. So I just want to say that if anything I said in this video sounds like, oh, you must hate the Falwell, no, that's not it at all. Because it's just like, your favorite musical artist, like you love the music, but some of the stuff they do as people you don't like, but you still like the music. It's kind of like that with the Falwells. Like, just because they're doing something in 2017 I didn't like, that doesn't tarnish the memories I made when I met them back in like 2013, 2014, 2012. So I just throwing that out there as well. But just speaking from my experience dealing with the real stuff that the news really doesn't cover, the fact that there were people calling in to leave the school because they didn't agree with Jerry backing Falwell backing Trump. So with that being said, I will definitely make the next part like maybe the confessions of an ex-LU employee or something like that. And just to, spoiler alert, I left Liberty Online on good terms. I left on my own terms. It was just time for me to go. And I'm glad I did, because YouTube is awesome. So with that being said, stay tuned, folks. Let me know in the comments, how do you like this series? It really is fun to reminisce on this stuff. The good times, the bad times. Can you stand the rain? New edition right there. But yeah, let me know, are there any other like things to, like, hey, if you're on the channel and you're young, hey, Jeremy, can you talk about, what was it like picking a college? Even though I talked about that in part 1, but are there any other like how-to videos you want me to talk about? College, how to survive, survival tips, stuff like that. It'll be fun to do that in the midst of Tyler Perry videos. So be on the lookout for part 1 of my ex-LU employee video series, and I'll talk to you all soon.